flavors of a continent. So there you go. Thanks, man.
It's fair to say that African music and African culture has impacted the world. I mean, you can go as far back as the beginning of time to a certain degree. To understand Africa's current position and contribution, one way of looking at things is we can look at the evolution of our music. Let's take a journey. African music has been around, and we've had so many great empires. The Benin Empire, the Mali Empire, even the Egyptian Empire. And it's fair to say that music was always a very important part of the culture. And so by the time transatlantic slave trade happened, and millions of Africans were shipped from the continent to the rest of the world, it only made sense that our music and our culture went with it. One key territory, the United States of America. And through this chart here, we can see the journey that our music has gone through, understanding the different types of genres it's given birth to. Boogie woogie, folk, spiritual folk, gospel, R&B, jazz, funk, blues, and right up to the current form of black music in America, which is hip hop. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is iKECHUKWU and Onuorah. And before I go any further, it makes sense I just give a little introduction about myself. In Nigeria, I moved back to Nigeria 2.5 years ago. I'm second generation Nigerian born in the UK. And I wear a number of hats out there. One of them is I'm part of a planning committee of an organization called PGM Club. I'll give you an overview of what PGM is. We kind of try and achieve three things out of there. PGM is, first of all, a platform championing new sound, the new wave, trying to provide new opportunities for artists. Secondly, we're also on the Beat FM, which is one of Nigeria's top radio stations. So we have a radio show that happens, and we bring all these new artists down. Another issue that we try to tackle is the payola situation. I'm sure you would have heard a lot of African radio stations, DJs, they ask artists for money. This is something we are trying to combat and try and use PGM as that platform. And then the third thing we try and do over there is at the end of every month, we do a live showcase. We bring together these talents, we raise sponsorship money and showcase them, and then try and help develop them through other means. Another area of what I do is I'm the second vice president of the Artiste Managers Association of Nigeria, and my remit here is really about educating the managers. How can we empower our managers? Because what we're seeing is a lot of artists are now getting international opportunities, but by the time their managers come, the managers are not equipped to deal with the type of deals going forward. And of course, there's ACI Entertainment. We run recording studios out in Nigeria, and we also do artist development. And then there is Giddy Culture Festival. This is a festival we've developed over the last 6 years. We wanted to create a festival, an experience that brought the classes together, but was also affordable for the average Nigerian, which is 70% of the population. And the last one is Strictly Entertainment Music and Strictly Digital Music. Strictly Entertainment Music was a platform I created back in 2011 whilst living in the UK, and it was how we could bring the emerging UK African scene together and start to look at ways of how we can do business by connecting them with different trade bodies and industry execs. And off the back of that, we created Strictly Digital Music 2 years ago as a platform that we are trying to look at new ways of how we can champion distributing Nigerian music, but to the diasporan audience. Okay, so moving forward, when we think of Africa, there are 4 key markets. And what we have is Egypt in the north, Nigeria in the west, South Africa in the south, and Kenya in the east. And I'm going to kind of skip through things because we've got a panel which comes on afterwards. So if you want these slides, just let Music Ally know and they'll provide you with that. So let's just get some basic facts or some numbers out of the way. Of course, when we think of Egypt, and I know Bill's going to be speaking about the Egyptian market afterwards, but key things are the population, just over 1 billion. And the percentage of youth in the market's very low, and that's something that's also very interesting. Mobile penetration is on the rise. It's considered the future payment system. However, cash is still the dominant form. So when you're thinking about what kind of business you want to do in that region, you have to take this into consideration. The business model out there is still very poor infrastructure. However, the major streaming platforms seem to be looking at that market as somewhere to reach. Spotify moved into the region in I think it was August or September last year. And then let's look at Nigeria. The numbers is huge. We're just under 2 billion. Youth is 70% of the market. So we have a huge number of foot soldiers. Mobile penetration is on the rise, and mobile money. This has been impacted this has impacted the rise of the mobile phone technology opportunities that arrive out there, and we'll look at that much further down. Basic infrastructure, however, we are still struggling to have the right kind of infrastructure. When you compare it with South Africa, which I will show later on, that have major labels in place, publishing is in place, touring systems in place, we're still trying to build all of this in Nigeria at the moment. But the ringtone business is huge. It's huge business over there. And then quickly, let's look at South Africa. In terms of the population, just under 58 million. Again, kind of like with Nigeria, the youth population, 65%. Mobile money, mobile penetrations going on over there. The best advanced infrastructure in Africa, as I said earlier on. They have venues that can range from 1,000 capacity to like 40, 50,000 capacity. Whereas when you compare that with most of other countries in Africa, like in Nigeria, the max we are able to do is about a 10,000 capacity, even though we have that huge population. And what else can we quickly look at? Of course, all the major distribution platforms are in South Africa for obvious reasons. The infrastructure is there. And then Kenya, again, Martin will discuss more about Kenya himself because he's an expert over there. But population just under 52 million. Again, strong youth market in the region. Mobile penetration. In fact, Kenya has the best kind of technology system in Africa going forward when it comes to the business side of things. And another thing that Kenya has that I find better in that region is their local music distribution platforms seem to be doing a better job than anywhere else in Africa. Again, that's something that Martin can talk about. I'm going to skip through these other facts, but I mean, this chart over here, it shows you the rate at which Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya, their entertainment and media sector, how it's outgrowing the world. But like I said, you can have access to these slides. Other key things, international agencies, they're all over Africa. We all know of the British Council, UKTI, all of them come into Africa, and the area they really focus on is training, resources, and human capacity building. So what can we learn so far from what's been said here? South Africa has built the best infrastructure and has the most players in the market. Kenya and Egypt have the better media ecosystem. Nigeria is behind. However, we have the numbers. We are disrupting the market, and we are doing that through music, fashion, film, and just sheer aggression. We are making the change, and we are the ones that's leading the noise on the international stage, and that's what's bringing the eyeballs to Africa. So, what are the challenges surrounding African music business? Well, the first one is our ecosystem. We don't have this kind of infrastructure in place. And this is something myself and a number of colleagues in Nigeria have been looking at. How can we create a basic chart like this, which highlights the areas of where new potential business models, and what are the, once you're able to highlight what the new potential business models are, you can look at attracting investment for that. Poor access to global markets. Again, because of lack of knowledge, and a lot of people are operating on intuition as opposed to experience, it's all about now money. They're not seeing the bigger picture. And so when it comes to, our music is reaching the international stage much faster than we are able to do business. And so we are struggling in terms of taking our music on the international stage and being able to capitalize on the opportunity. And that leads to poor training. Our governments, our primary schools, universities, colleges, I mean, in Nigeria we don't have an entertainment law degree course, where our industry is being run by lawyers that have studied criminal law, family law, every other law apart from entertainment. So it's very important for ourselves and the government to start looking at ways of how we now start looking at building the next generation of music, or if you want to call it cultural industries, executives that are going to help grow the market. And then poor economies and illiteracy. The fact of the matter is, Africa is still struggling. And so for most governments, the priority is education, light, water, poor healthcare, things like that. Rural areas are still very hard to get to. You can put a track out in, not everywhere has a Lagos or a Nairobi or somewhere like Cape Town. And what that means is, once you step out of Lagos and you try to market your product in other territories within Nigeria, you begin to come up against a number of different challenges, even though it's all within the same country. Poor infrastructure, language, tribal, religious barriers. We still have countries that certain types of songs cannot be put out over there, and if that does happen, people can get arrested and stuff. Another key area is enforcement. Yes, there are collection societies, there are a number of trade bodies over there, but once again, how these are being enforced, it's not a priority for governments, and people that are controlling a number of these positions do not properly understand the role of what they're trying to do. A classic example is royalty payments infrastructure. The business model is very poor, very basic understanding. There's a lot of embezzlement of money and poor administration. So a lot of artists or representatives begin to lose faith in the collection societies. But my argument to them is, you have to understand that a lot of African collection societies are operating in the 21st century, when all of a sudden the eyeballs of the world are on them. And if you really look at the history of the PRS, BMI, ASCAP, all of them, that established themselves some 50, 60, 70 years ago, if they were operating in a digital age, we would also be able to see a lot of the backhand deals and shoddy things that happen over there. So no collection society is perfect, and Africa is growing and trying to adjust to a number of things while the world spotlight is on it. Then of course, live show challenges. Few countries have medium to large scale type of venues. It's difficult to tour the region, so many different barriers that are on place. Very few experienced promoters exist out there. Poor facilities, security is an issue. You can do a great show, for example, where we do Giddy Fest, it's on the island. It's a very secure place, but the moment people come out of that region and travel about 30, 40 minutes down the road, down the express road, you begin to see the reality of the country and a number of challenges. So it's almost like a world with another world within a world. So when you have young ladies who are attending festivals and things like that, you have to think of security not just within the festivals, but also outside going forward. And of course, piracy. Piracy is huge. I don't know how many of you know of Alaba International Market. I mean, what is fascinating about this is, it's a huge global network. And what that means is, one of your tracks can get released over here today, and I can guarantee once it hits Alaba tonight, tomorrow, that has been mass produced and it's shipped around the world, and in 3 days' time, they've already bootlegged your stuff. It is a huge industry, and it's unfortunately, it's needed right now because they are catering for the mass population. 70% live below the poverty line. So when you think about it, it's an area that needs to be tackled. Okay, I'm going to very quickly skip through this. What are the factors impacting the change that's happened? Well, we have successful artists that are making a lot of noise on the international stage. Of course, we all know about Drake's One Dance, which featured Wizkid and Kayla. It sold over 875 million streams. We've got Mr. Easy with Gigs. We've got, of course, Wizkid with Chris Brown, a number of others. All of this is happening. Then Africa is going live. We know we have a number of challenges, but we are taking our culture and our music to the live stage. You've got Ultra Festival in South Africa, Giddy that we do, One Africa Music Fest, and of course, on the 27th this month, my mate Smade, who does Smade events, he sold out the O2 Arena. Davido's coming into town. And what is fascinating about all of this is we're doing all of this through social media. We don't have the finances for big billboards. We're using technology that you have created for us in a completely different way. We've sold all of this out through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Then, of course, the African diaspora, people like myself, we're taking our skills that we have acquired over here, we're going back into the market and impacting change, and that is creating a new middle class within the market. And we're taking back our entrepreneurial mindset. We're creating new opportunities that's helping to change the landscape. And that means we are now celebrating our culture and changing the narrative. Yes, Africa is still struggling. Yes, there's a number of challenges that's going on over there, but we are aware of our power right now, and we are trying to do something about it as opposed to waiting for handouts. I'll quickly skip through here. There's other things. Of course, the international players that are on the ground that's happening. So what are the opportunities for you? That's the question. Well, first thing is, the governments are gradually beginning to become aware of this intellectual property becoming a new superpower, and they are looking at things that they can do about it. And then, of course, if you remember earlier on, I spoke about the likes of UKTI and British Council all coming in. It's great that they are coming in, but they, in my opinion, they always have a separate agenda. In this case, you heard Paul talking about Music Ally Africa yesterday. We need more music-based companies that understand the music business, looking to come into Africa and look at how we can do capacity building projects and training. And that's what we are looking to do with Music Ally in terms of Music Ally Africa. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the familiar players are in the market, and what that means is they are potentially some of your first points of contact if you want a bit more information about how to go into the African space. And then, of course, Africa is going to become a new superpower. So it's an opportunity for you. It's just a matter of time. It's going to happen, and you can feel the momentum of what we're doing. And then, of course, technology is changing. Banks, telco companies, they're all getting involved in the business out there, and loads of platforms are also being built, helping to change what's going on. Ticketing is another interesting opportunity. It's all of a sudden become a new source of how do we create data as well as traction. So we are looking at new types of ways of how we engage with people through ticketing services, and how we attach other byproducts that we associate onto that. Another key thing I would mention about ticketing is, whilst you've got Ticketmasters and the others in the West, there is an argument that there's an opportunity for a major player like that to come into Africa and probably capitalize on an opportunity going forward. Then there's sponsorship that's also going on. We're seeing a lot of brands coming on board and getting involved in shows, pumping big money behind it. And it's all about the numbers games for them. product placement. And then there's, of course, access to the next generation. I mentioned the PGM Club earlier on. What you might know of the WizKids and the Davidos today, but it's these next generation that's coming through. These are the kids, this is the new movement. We call it Afro avant-garde because they are fusing different sounds, different genres together. And these kids are very brand savvy. They've already got their images on point. They understand their market position. They're growing unique audiences, and they are very, very business savvy. And these are the ones that are going to capitalize off the paveway that the likes of your WizKid and Davidos are going to make. And through platforms like the PGM Club, we have access to this. So where do you fit in? Well, it's partnerships. Let's sit down, let's talk, let's develop Africa together. Let's look at ways of how we can get the data that a lot of you need in order to make calculated business decisions. Let's help train the next generation of potential music business executives going forward. In conclusion, does Africa still have challenges? Yes, it does. And I don't want anything I've shown here to kind of brush that aside. All of those stereotypical things still exist. However, we are aware that we have an opportunity right now. We are moving forward. Africa presents opportunities. It's rebranding, it's rebuilding, it's leading the way right now. We're international. We have the likes of Tiny coming back, Skepta's coming back, John Boyega's coming. They're all coming back and helping build what's going on. They're all excited. So whether you come or not, the bottom line is we are doing business, we're doing new business, we're here to stay, and you're gonna know about us. And don't forget, China's already in the market. So if you're waiting for statistics, know that by the time China provides you with those statistics, we would have already locked down all the deals with China, and you're just gonna get the crumbs.